The alien ships appeared over Earth at exactly 3 in the morning. The Vraxian military commanders thought they were very smart. They picked this time because most humans would be sleeping. Their computers said this was the perfect moment to attack. The military would be slow to respond. Communication systems would be quiet. People would be scared and confused when they woke up to find aliens in the sky. But the Vraxians made a big mistake. They did not understand that humans do not all sleep at the same time. Todd Mitchell was sitting in his apartment in Austin, Texas. He was playing a video game with his friends online. They had been playing for 6 hours already. Todd was a software developer, but right now he was just focused on defeating the boss in the game. His energy drink was almost empty. His eyes were tired, but he was not going to quit now. Then every screen in his apartment flickered. The lights blinked. His game froze for just a second. "What the hell?" Todd said out loud. He thought his internet was having problems again. He was about to yell at his internet company in his head when he looked out the window. There were huge shapes in the sky. They were not airplanes. They were not clouds. They were massive geometric objects, just hanging there in the air above the city. They glowed with a strange light. Todd stared at them for a full minute before his brain accepted what he was seeing. Guys," Todd spoke into his microphone. "Does anyone else see spaceships right now?" His gaming friends started talking all at once. 17 out of 20 people in their online party could see strange objects in the sky. They were in different cities, different countries, but they all saw the same thing. Giant alien ships. Halfway around the world in Busan, South Korea, a young woman named Jisoo Kang was working late. She was a freelance translator and had a deadline to finish. She was translating a technical manual from English to Korean. It was boring work, but it paid her bills. Her apartment building shook. It was not like an earthquake. Jisoo had felt earthquakes before. This was different. The whole building vibrated like a giant drum. Pictures fell off her walls. Her coffee cup slid across her desk. Jisoo ran to her balcony. She lived on the 9th floor and had a good view of the harbor. What she saw made her stomach drop. Massive ships were coming down from the sky. They had strange lights and made no sound at all. They were bigger than any building she had ever seen. They moved slowly like they had all the time in the world. Her hands were shaking as she grabbed her phone. She called her younger brother Taeyang. He was a graduate student and never slept. He always stayed up late working on his research. "Taeyang, look outside right now," she said when he answered. She heard him walk to a window. Then she heard him swear. In Seoul, Dr. Yuna Shin was finishing her shift at the emergency room. She had been a doctor for 5 years and thought she had seen everything. Then the first patients started coming in. People were hurt from car accidents. Drivers had been looking at the sky instead of the road. Other people had panic attacks. One old man had a heart attack from pure fear. Then the hospital's power went out. The backup generators turned on, but the lights were dimmer. Everything felt wrong. The other doctors and nurses were scared. Some were crying. Dr. Shin took a deep breath and kept working. People needed help. She could be scared later. At 3:17 in the morning, every phone, computer, and television on Earth turned on by itself. A message appeared. It was translated into every language automatically. The voice that spoke was cold and mechanical. "People of Earth, we are the Vraxian Collective. Your planet now belongs to us. You have 12 hours to surrender. All military forces must power down. All governments must submit to our authority. If you resist, you will be eliminated. This is your only warning." Then the screens went dark. Most people panicked. World leaders held emergency meetings. Military forces started mobilizing, but it was slow and chaotic. Nobody knew what to do. This had never happened before. But there was one group of people who did not panic. They were the gamers, the night shift workers, the insomniacs, and the people who just happened to be awake at 3 in the morning. They had been mentally preparing for alien invasions their whole lives. They had played video games about it. They had watched movies about it. They had argued about it on internet forums for years, and they were already online, already connected, already talking to each other. Todd Mitchell opened his Discord app. He created a new server and named it Alien Invasion Response Team. He sent the link to his gaming friends. Within 5 minutes, 50 people had joined. Within 10 minutes, there were 200 people. Within 30 minutes, there were over 3,000 people from around the world. People started sharing information. Someone created a map showing where all the alien ships were. People posted videos and photos. Someone else started a spreadsheet tracking the ship's movements. They were organizing faster than any government. Taeyang Kong was doing something different. He was a graduate student studying signal processing. When his sister sent him a recording of the alien broadcast, he loaded it into his computer and started analyzing it. He looked at the signal patterns, the frequency modulation, and the data structure. What he found was interesting. The alien signal used technology that seemed old. It reminded him of communication systems from 20 years ago. The encryption was weak. The protocol was inefficient. These aliens had better spaceships than humans, but their computer systems seemed outdated. Taeyang wrote up his findings and posted them to an academic forum at 4:47 in the morning. He did not expect much response, but within 30 minutes his post had been shared to Reddit, Twitter, and multiple Discord servers. Scientists and programmers around the world started reading his analysis. By 5 in the morning, someone had forwarded Taeyang's research to the South Korean military. By 5:30, it had reached military intelligence agencies in 6 different countries. Todd was reading the same research in Texas. As a software developer who worked in network security, he understood what Taeyang was saying. The aliens had networked computer systems. They had to for their ships to coordinate so perfectly. And if they were networked, and if their security was weak, then maybe they could be hacked. Todd typed a message in his Discord server. If they are networked, we can hack them. 5,000 miles away in a military bunker outside Washington, D.C., Colonel Dong-Yun Park was reading the same message. He was a U.S. Army officer in charge of cyber warfare. He had been monitoring these civilian chat servers because one of his young officers suggested it. The colonel was shocked. Random people on the internet were doing better intelligence analysis than his official briefing reports. Colonel Park made a decision that would either get him fired or promoted. He opened a direct communication line to the civilians. Todd Mitchell received a message from a verified military account at 5:47 in the morning. "We need your help," the message said. Todd stared at his screen. The U.S. military was asking him for help. A guy who had been playing video games 6 hours ago. He looked at the alien ship still visible through his window. He thought about the 12-hour deadline. He thought about every alien invasion movie he had ever seen. He typed back, "What do you need?" While Todd was connecting with the military, Dr. Yuna Shin was making her own discovery. A small alien drone had crashed near the hospital. She convinced 2 security guards to help her drag it inside. They brought it to the morgue where nobody would see it. Under the bright lights, Dr. Shin examined the alien technology. She had no idea what she was looking at, but she approached it like she would approach a new patient. Look for patterns. Look for weaknesses. Take samples. Run tests. The drone had circuits and wires, but also something else. Something that looked biological. Like the technology and biology were mixed together, and the biological parts were breaking down. They were dying in Earth's air. Dr. Shin took samples and ran every test she could with the equipment in the hospital. She called her cousin Soman, who was a biochemist at Seoul National University. She sent photos and data. Soman called her back 20 minutes later. Her voice was excited and scared at the same time. "Yuna, I think they are allergic to Earth. Their biological components are being attacked by our bacteria. We might be toxic to them." Dr. Shin looked at the dying drone parts under her microscope. She thought about the implications. Then she smiled for the first time that night. By 6 in the morning, humanity's night shift had done something incredible. They had found weaknesses in the alien systems. They had connected military resources with civilian experts. They had created communication networks across the whole planet. The Varaxians had given humanity 12 hours to surrender. They thought humans would need that time to organize and realize how hopeless everything was. But the humans who were already awake did not need time to organize. They just needed coffee and good internet connections, and they had plenty of both. The Varaxians were about to learn an important lesson. Never invade a planet at 3 in the morning, because somewhere someone is always awake, and that someone might just be ready to fight back. The Varaxian collective had conquered 23 different alien species. They had a system that always worked. First, they would arrive in overwhelming force. Second, they would demand immediate surrender. Third, they would wait for the inevitable acceptance. Every species they invaded had followed this pattern. Fear led to submission. It was predictable. But at 4:30 in the morning, something went wrong. Instead of frightened world leaders begging for mercy, the Vraxians started picking up thousands of unauthorized human transmissions. The humans were not panicking. They were organizing. They were sharing information. They were analyzing Vraxian technology in real time. This had never happened before. Commander Thelvax was in charge of the Earth invasion fleet. He sat in his command chair and watched the communication reports with growing confusion. The humans should be terrified and disorganized. Instead, they seemed almost excited. Some of their transmissions even included what his translator called memes about alien invasions. He did not understand what memes were, but they did not seem like the communications of a frightened species. Taeyang Kang had not slept. He did not plan to sleep. He was too focused on the alien signal he had been analyzing. He was a graduate student at KAIST, one of the best technical universities in South Korea. His specialty was signal processing, which meant he understood how information was transmitted through radio waves and other methods. The alien broadcast was fascinating. It used a type of frequency modulation that human engineers had stopped using 20 years ago, because it was inefficient. It was like finding out that aliens drove cars with wooden wheels. They had amazing spaceships but terrible communication security. Taeyang posted his full analysis to an academic research forum at 4:47 in the morning. He included detailed technical specifications, vulnerability assessments, and theoretical attack vectors. He expected maybe a few professors would read it eventually. Instead, his post exploded across the internet. Within 15 minutes, it was on Reddit. Within 30 minutes, it was being shared on Twitter in 12 different languages. Within an hour, someone had forwarded it to military intelligence in South Korea, Japan, and the United States. In Austin, Texas, Todd Mitchell was reading Taeyang's analysis for the third time. Todd worked in network security for a software company. His job was to protect computer systems from hackers. He understood systems, protocols, and vulnerabilities. The Vraxian ships were definitely using networked communication. They had to be. Todd had been watching the ships through his window for hours now. They moved in perfect coordination. They adjusted their positions together. They maintained formation without any visible confusion. That level of coordination required constant data sharing between ships, and if they were sharing data, they had a network, and every network had vulnerabilities. Todd opened a direct message to Colonel Donghyun Park, the military officer who had contacted him. "I think we can hack them," Todd wrote. "Their communication protocol has multiple security flaws. If Taeyang's analysis is correct, and I think it is, we can potentially inject false data into their network." Colonel Park responded immediately. "How fast can you do it?" "Give me access to military-grade signal equipment and I can have something working in 2 hours," Todd replied. "You have it. Check your email." Todd checked his email. There were authentication codes, access credentials, and contact information for a dozen military signal specialists. The U.S. military was giving him access to classified equipment. Yesterday, he had been playing video games. Today, he was running a cyber warfare operation against aliens. He messaged his Discord server. "Okay, everyone, we are actually doing this. I need every programmer, network engineer, and hacker in this chat. We are going to hack alien spaceships." 3,000 people responded. Not all of them were qualified, but enough of them were. Todd started organizing them into teams. He put the best programmers on signal analysis. He put network specialists on protocol exploitation. He put security experts on developing attack vectors. It was the strangest military operation in human history. The command center was a Discord server. The soldiers were civilians in pajamas. The weapons were lines of computer code, but it was working. Across the world in Seoul, Dr. Yuna Shin was having her own breakthrough. She had been examining the crashed alien drone for hours. The biological components in the alien technology were fascinating and disturbing. They were breaking down rapidly when exposed to Earth's atmosphere. She had taken samples and sent them to her cousin Soman Park, a biochemist at Seoul National University. Soman had access to better laboratory equipment. She called Dr. Shin back at 7 in the morning with results. "Yuna, this is incredible," Soman said. Her voice was excited but also scared. "The alien biological material is being attacked by terrestrial bacteria. Common bacteria that exist everywhere on Earth. The alien cells have no defense against them." "What does that mean?" Dr. Shin asked. "It means Earth is toxic to them. Our entire biosphere is hostile to their biology. Every breath of unfiltered air is dangerous. Every surface is covered in microorganisms that can damage their technology. Dr. Shin thought about this. Can we weaponize it? There was silence on the phone. Then Soman spoke carefully. Yes, we could concentrate bacterial cultures and deploy them against Vraxian technology. But Yuna, we would be creating a biological weapon. They threatened to eliminate humanity, Dr. Shin said. I think we are past worrying about being polite. Soman agreed. She started working on a concentrated bacterial solution. Dr. Shin contacted the South Korean military and explained what they had found. Within 30 minutes, military scientists were on their way to the university. While the biological weapon was being developed, Todd's hacking operation was showing results. At 7:30 in the morning, a Vraxian patrol ship over the Pacific Ocean suddenly changed course. Its navigation system had been compromised. The ship turned away from its assigned route and headed. The Vraxian crew tried to correct the course. Their system did not respond. They tried manual override. It did not work. They tried restarting their navigation computer. By the time it came back online, they were 200 kilometers off course and their commander was screaming at them over the radio. Todd watched the satellite tracking data and grinned. It worked. We actually took control of an alien spaceship's navigation. Can you do it again? Colonel Park asked. I can do it to all of them, Todd replied. We just need time. But time was the one thing humanity did not have much of. The Vraxian deadline was 12 hours from the initial broadcast. They were now 6 hours in. Half the time was gone. Jisoo Kang had been coordinating Civ Translator, which gave her a useful skill. She could read and translate communications in Korean, English, and Japanese. She had been monitoring social media, news broadcasts, and civilian reports, organizing the information and sending it to both her brother Taeyang and to South Korean military intelligence. At 8 in the morning, she noticed something interesting. The Vraxian ships were starting to show signs of confusion. Ships that should be on patrol were drifting off course. Communication signals between ships were becoming irregular. Response times were slowing down. She sent her analysis to Taeyang. I think whatever people are doing to them is working. Taeyang was in the middle of a video call with Todd and 6 other hackers from around the world. They were coordinating their attacks on the Vraxian network. When he got his sister's message, he shared it with the group. The attacks are having visible effects, Taeyang said. We need to increase pressure, Todd agreed. Let us hit them with everything. We will flood their communication network with so much junk data they cannot think straight. It was essentially a DDoS attack, distributed denial of service, a hacking technique where you overwhelm a computer system with so much traffic that it cannot function properly. Hackers used it against websites and servers. Nobody had ever tried it against an alien invasion fleet, but there was a first time for everything. At 8:30 in the morning, every hacker, programmer, and network engineer in Todd's Discord server launched their attack simultaneously. Thousands of computers around the world started sending data to Vraxian communication frequencies. Meaningless data, random noise, fake signals, garbage information. The Vraxian communication network started to collapse. Ships could not talk to each other clearly. Orders from the command ship were getting lost in the noise. Navigation data was corrupted. Sensor readings were unreliable. Commander Thelvax watched his command console with growing horror. His fleet was falling apart and he did not understand why. There were no missiles, no laser weapons, no nuclear explosions. The humans were not attacking with traditional weapons. They were doing something else, something his training had never prepared him for. He tried to send new orders. The orders did not go through. He tried to contact his patrol ships. Half of them did not respond. He tried to get a clear sensor reading of Earth's military installations. The sensors showed contradictory data. What are they doing to us? He asked his communication officer. The communication officer looked at the data streams with confusion. Sir, they appear to be transmitting massive amounts of random data on our frequencies. Our systems are being overwhelmed. Then filter it out. We are trying, sir. B. At 10 in the morning, humanity launched its counterattack. It was not a traditional military operation. There were no missiles launching or jets scrambling. Instead, thousands of people sitting at computers around the world pressed enter at the same time. The cyber attack hit the Vraxian fleet like a digital tsunami. Every vulnerability that Todd and Taeyang had identified was exploited simultaneously. False navigation data flooded their systems. Communication channels were jammed with garbage information. Sensor readings were corrupted. Command authentication codes were spoofed. Commander Thelvax watched his control panel light up with error messages. Ships were reporting system failures across the fleet. Navigation computers were giving impossible coordinates. Communication was breaking down completely. 3 more ships collided in orbit because they could not see each other properly. "Get me a status report," he shouted at his officers, but his officers could not give him a status report. Their computers were showing different information. Nothing made sense. It was chaos. On Earth, Todd Mitchell monitored the attack from his apartment in Austin. His screen showed data flowing from thousands of computers around the world, all targeting the Vraxian network. It was beautiful in a strange way, like watching a symphony, except the music was computer code and the audience was an alien invasion. Fleet. Navigation systems are compromised. On 40% of their ships, someone reported in the Discord voice chat. Communication. Network is down to 30% capacity. Another voice said, sensor arrays are showing 92% error. Rates, a third person added. Todd allowed himself a small smile. They were actually doing it. A bunch of gamers, programmers, and insomniacs were taking down an alien invasion fleet using nothing but computers and internet connections. But the cyber attack was only the first part of the plan. The second part was about to begin. In Seoul, military trucks loaded with industrial spraying equipment rolled out of staging areas. The trucks headed toward locations where Vraxian ships were hovering low over the city. Similar operations were launching in dozens of cities around the world. Busan, Tokyo, New York, London, Sydney, Mumbai. Anywhere the Vraxians had ships near the ground. Dr. Yuna Shin watched from the hospital as the first truck arrived at a Vraxian ship hovering over a nearby park. The ship was enormous, easily the size of a large building. It floated silently about 50 meters above the ground. Vraxian soldiers had been attempting to establish a perimeter, but the cyber attacks had disrupted their coordination. They stood in confused groups trying to get orders from their commanders. The truck stopped 300 meters from the ship. Men in protective suits connected hoses to large tanks aided the sprayers. A fine mist sprayed out, carried by the wind toward the Vraxian ship. The effect was not immediate. For the first few minutes, nothing visible happened. Then Dr. Shin saw it through her binoculars. The surface of the alien ship started to change. The smooth metal-like exterior began to look rough. Patches of discoloration appeared. The glowing lights on the hull flickered. The bacterial solution was working. Trillions of terrestrial microorganisms were attacking the biological components in Vraxian technology, components that had no evolutionary defense against Earth's aggressive ecosystem. The aliens had sealed environments in their ships, but the exteriors were exposed, and the bacteria were hungry. Vraxian soldiers near the ship started having equipment failures. Their weapons stopped working. Their communication devices went dead. Their armor joints seized up. Some soldiers tried to retreat back to the ship. Others stood in confusion, not understanding what was happening. In Busan, Jisoo Kang watched a similar scene unfold through a liverbore was being sprayed with the bacterial solution. The ship's engines started to sputter. The smooth hovering became unstable. The ship drifted sideways, unable to maintain position properly. She called her brother Taeyang. "It is working. The biological weapon is actually working." Taeyang was still on a video call with the international hacking team. He shared the news. There were cheers in multiple languages. They were winning. Against all odds, humanity was fighting back successfully. But Commander Thelvax was not ready to give up. He had been a military commander for 30 years. He had conquered worlds. He would not be defeated by primitives who barely had space travel. All ships implement Communication Protocol 7, he ordered through the few channels that still worked. Protocol 7 was an emergency backup system. It was slower and more primitive, but it was isolated from the main network. The humans could not hack what they could not access. Slowly, painfully, the Vraxian fleet started to regain some coordination. Ships switched to backup systems. Communication was restored at a basic level. It was not good, but it was functional. Thelvax assessed his situation. He had lost control of 20 ships completely. Another 30 were operating at reduced capacity. His ground forces were reporting widespread equipment failures. But he still had over 100 fully functional ships in orbit. Ships with weapons powerful enough to turn cities to ash. He made a decision. If he could not conquer Earth, he would punish it. He would show these primitives the price of resistance. Prepare orbital bombardment, he ordered. Target major population centers. If they will not surrender, we will eliminate them. The order went out through the backup communication system. Ships in orbit began charging their main weapons. Massive energy signatures built up as the weapons prepared to fire. It would take 15 minutes for the weapons to reach full charge. Then the bombardment would begin. On Earth, military satellites detected the energy buildup immediately. Alarms went off in command centers around the world. Analysts looked at the data with growing horror. The aliens were preparing to attack from orbit. When those weapons fired, millions of people would die. Colonel Park received the alert in his command center. He immediately contacted Todd. They are preparing to bombard us from orbit. We need to stop those ships now. Todd felt his stomach drop. Our cyber attacks are not strong enough to take down ships in high orbit. They switched to backup systems we cannot access as easily. Then what can we do? Todd thought frantically. They had control of some ships. They had disrupted many others. But taking down the ships in bombardment position would require something more direct. Something they had not tried yet. Then he had an idea. A crazy idea. An idea that should not work but might be their only chance. Can we take control of the ships we have already compromised and use them as weapons? Todd asked. There was silence in the command center. Then Colonel Park spoke slowly. You want to ram Vraxian ships into other Vraxian ships? It is not elegant, but yes. We control the navigation on about 20 ships completely. If we redirect them toward the bombardment ships, we can at least disrupt the attack. That is insane. Do you have a better idea? Colonel Park did not have a better idea. Nobody did. Do it. Todd opened the channel to his hacking team. Everyone listen up. We need to redirect every ship we control toward the bombardment group in high orbit. We are going to create collisions. Make it look like accidents at first so they do not realize what we are doing until it is too late. Taeyang understood immediately. We turn their own ships into missiles. I like it. Around the world, hackers went to work. They accessed the navigation systems of compromised Vraxian ships and fed in new coordinates. The ships began to move slowly at first, then with increasing speed. They climbed toward higher orbits where the bombardment ships waited. Commander Thelvac saw ships moving on his display. He assumed they were repositioning for the bombardment. It took him 3 minutes to realize the ships were not following proper formation protocols. It took him another 2 minutes to realize they were on collision courses. Abort. Order those ships to stop, he shouted. But those ships were not receiving his orders. They were receiving orders from Earth. Orders that sent them directly into bombardment ships at high speed. The first collision happened at 10:32. A compromised destroyer slammed into a bombardment cruiser at several thousand kilometers per hour. Both ships were destroyed instantly. Debris scattered across orbit. The second collision happened 12 seconds later. Then a third. Then a fourth. The bombardment formation broke apart. Ships tried to move to safety. Some collided with each other in the chaos. Others were hit by incoming compromised ships that tracked their movements. The carefully planned, orbital attack dissolved into a disaster. Thelvax watched his fleet destroy itself and felt something he had not felt in 30 years: fear. These humans were not fighting like any species he had encountered. They were not trying to win through superior firepower. They were winning through chaos, confusion, and turning the Vraxians' own technology against them. On Earth, people watched the orbital battle through telescopes and satellites. They saw explosions in the sky as ships collided. They saw the bombardment formation break apart. They saw humanity fighting back with everything they had. In Seoul, Dr. Yuna Shin watched a Vraxian ship crash into the Han River. The bacterial weapon had degraded its system so badly that it could no longer stay in the air. Soldiers pulled alien survivors from the water. They were coughing and sick. Earth's atmosphere was poisoning them. In Busan, Jisoo-kang saw crowds gathering in the streets. People were Chiku. Commander Thelvac sat in his command chair and stared at the damage reports. In 6 hours, he had lost 37 ships. Another 45 were damaged or operating at reduced capacity. His ground forces were retreating because their equipment kept failing. And he still did not fully understand what the humans were doing to him. The Vraxian collective had conquered 23 species across multiple star systems. Thelvax had personally led 4 successful invasions. He had protocols, procedures, and centuries of military doctrine to guide him, but none of it prepared him for humans. Every species fought back with weapons. They used missiles, energy weapons, nuclear devices. They tried to destroy Vraxian ships through traditional warfare, and they always lost because Vraxian technology was superior. But humans were not fighting with weapons, not traditional ones anyway. They were fighting with computer code and bacteria. They were hacking his ships and poisoning his technology with invisible microorganisms. It was like being attacked by ghosts. He could not shoot what he could not see. At 11 in the morning Earth time, Thelvax made a decision. He had been trained to adapt. If the current strategy was not working, change the strategy. The humans were using unconventional warfare. He would respond with overwhelming conventional force. All remaining ships prepare for atmospheric entry, he ordered. We will land ground forces in every major city simultaneously. Flood the planet with soldiers. They cannot hack us if we are standing in front of them. It was a desperate plan. Sending ships into atmosphere made them vulnerable, but staying in orbit was not working. The humans had somehow turned his own fleet into weapons against itself. Maybe close combat would work better. The order went out. Vraxian ships began descending toward Earth. 123 ships moving toward population centers across every continent. It was the largest military deployment the Vraxian collective had ever attempted on a single world. On Earth, satellite tracking systems lit up with alerts. Every military in the world saw the ships coming down. This was it, the final assault. If the Vraxians got their ground forces established, the fighting would become brutal. Close-quarters urban warfare. Millions of civilians in danger. Colonel Park contacted Todd immediately. They are landing everywhere. We need to ground those ships before they reach the surface. Todd had been trying to rest. He had closed his eyes for maybe 10 minutes. Now he was staring at tracking data showing over 100 alien ships descending on Earth. His brain felt like mud. He had been awake for 33 hours, but he forced himself to focus. The ships entering atmosphere will be more vulnerable, Todd said slowly, working through the problem. Their shields have to adapt to atmospheric pressure. Their systems are stressed. If we hit them during entry, they will be at their weakest. Can your team do it? Todd looked at his Discord server. Thousands of people were still online. Most had been awake as long as he had. They were exhausted but still ready. He had never been more proud of a group of strangers in his life. Yeah, we can do it. Across the world, the hacking teams went back to work. They targeted ships as they entered the atmosphere. Navigation systems were corrupted. Engine controls were compromised. Guidance systems failed. Ships that should have made controlled descents instead spiraled out of control. In Seoul, Taeyang Kang watched tracking data on his screen. A Vraxian cruiser was descending toward the city. Then its navigation failed. The ship's descent became unstable. It started to spin. The engines fired randomly, pushing it off course. Instead of landing in downtown Seoul, it crashed into the Han River with a massive splash. Water and debris flew hundreds of meters into the air. Taeyang felt no sympathy. These aliens had threatened to eliminate humanity. He was just helping them reach the ground faster than they planned. In Busan, Jisoo Kang had joined a civilian coordination center. She was translating reports from around the world, helping Korean military understand what was happening globally. She watched video feeds showing Vraxian ships crashing in cities everywhere. New York, London, but some ships made it through. Some landed successfully despite the cyber attacks. Vraxian soldiers poured out of the landed ships, thousands of them, armed and ready for combat. This was where Dr. Yuna Shin's biological weapon became critical. As Vraxian soldiers moved through Earth cities, they were exposed to the environment. The bacterial solution that had been sprayed earlier was still in the air, on surfaces and water. The aliens breathed it in. Their armor touched contaminated surfaces. Their weapons absorbed bacteria from the air. Equipment started failing within minutes. Weapons jammed. Communication devices went silent. Power cells drained unexpectedly. The biological components in Vraxian technology were being eaten away by terrestrial microorganisms. In Seoul, Vraxian soldiers attempted to secure a city block. They moved in formation, weapons ready, looking like they knew what they were doing. Then one soldier's weapon simply fell apart in his hands. The pieces clattered on the ground. Other soldiers looked at their own weapons. More equipment failed. A soldier's helmet cracked and fell off. Another soldier's armor lost power and became too heavy to move in. Communication devices sparked and died. Within 20 minutes, the highly trained Vraxian strike force was standing in the street with broken equipment and no way to contact their command. Korean civilians watched from buildings. Some were scared. Some were angry. Then someone threw a bottle. It missed the aliens but shattered on the ground near them. Another bottle followed, then more. The civilians were fighting back with whatever they had. Military forces arrived soon after. They found Vraxian soldiers surrendering because their equipment no longer worked. The feared alien warriors were just confused individuals far from home on a planet that was toxic to their technology. Similar scenes played out in cities around the world. Vraxian ground forces landed and then immediately started having catastrophic equipment failures. Earth's biosphere was hostile to them. Every breath of air, every drop of water, every surface they touched carried bacteria that destroyed their technology. Commander Thelvax received reports of his ground forces surrendering or retreating. Ships crashing, equipment failing, everything was going wrong. The invasion was collapsing. He had one option left, one final strategy. If he could not conquer Earth and he could not land forces, he could at least deny Earth to humanity. He could make the planet uninhabitable. Prepare the planet killer weapon, he ordered quietly. His officers stared at him. The planet killer was a weapon of last resort. It would make Earth's surface radioactive for thousands of years. Nothing would survive. The Vraxian collective would lose the resources they came for, but at least humanity would be eliminated, sir. The collective will punish us for destroying a viable planet, one officer said carefully. The collective will punish us more for failing the invasion, Thelvax replied. We cannot return in defeat. Either we take this planet or we make sure nobody can have it. The order was given. The planet killer weapon began charging. It would take 30 minutes to reach full power. Then it would fire and Earth would die. But the Vraxians had forgotten something important. Humans had been monitoring their communications all day. The hackers had access to Vraxian data systems. When the planet killer weapon started charging, alarms went off in command centers across Earth. Todd saw the alert on his screen. At first he did not understand what he was reading. Then the translation software clarified it. Planet killer weapon, charging. 30 minutes to firing. He felt cold. They had fought so hard. They had won so many small victories, and now the aliens were going to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. Colonel Park's voice cut through his panic. Todd, can you stop it? Todd looked at the data. The planet killer weapon was on the Vraxian command ship, the same ship that had switched to isolated backup systems after the earlier cyber attacks. They had not been able to hack the command ship for hours. I do not know, Todd said honestly. That ship has better security than the others. We have not been able to access it. Try anyway. We have 30 minutes. Todd opened channels to every hacker he trusted. Emergency situation. The Vraxians are charging a weapon that will destroy Earth. We need to hack their command ship in the next 30 minutes or everyone dies. Taeyang joined the call immediately. Send me all the data you have on their command ship. I'm already looking at it, said a voice with a German accent. One of the hackers from Berlin. Same here, said someone from Mumbai. I have their shield modulation data, someone else added. They worked together, sharing information faster than Todd had ever seen. Every vulnerability was analyzed. Every possible exploit was attempted. They tried everything. 20 minutes passed. The weapon was 2/3 charged. They still had not found a way in. 15 minutes left. The weapon was 80% charged. Todd was starting to lose hope. Then Taeyang spoke. Wait, their backup communication system. It is isolated from the main network, but it still has to connect to the weapon control system. There is a data pathway. Very narrow, but it exists. Can we use it? Todd asked. Maybe. If we send a very specific type of code, something their security will not recognize as an attack. What kind of code? Diagnostic code. Maintenance protocols. T. The war lasted 13 hours. Historians would later call it the shortest and strangest war in human history. An alien invasion defeated not by missiles or armies, but by insomniacs with computers and scientists with bacteria. The world had changed in one night, and nothing would ever be the same again. Todd Mitchell slept for 16 hours after the Vraxian retreat. When he woke up, he was famous. His face was on every news channel. People called him a hero. The man who saved Earth, he hated it. All he had done was apply network security principles to an alien computer system. There were thousands of other people who deserved just as much credit. But the media needed a simple story, and Lone Gamer Saves World was easier to tell than the truth. He quit his job at the software company. The UN offered him a position with something called the Space Defense Initiative, a new organization created to protect Earth from future threats. They wanted him to lead their cybersecurity division. The pay was good, the work was important, and he could do most of it from home, which meant he could keep his terrible sleep schedule. Across the world in South Korea, Taeyang Kang received even more attention. Every university, every government, every major tech company wanted to hire him. They offered him money, resources, anything he wanted. He turned them all down and went back to graduate school. His thesis on signal processing and xenotechnology became the most downloaded academic paper in history. But Taeyang did not care about fame. He cared about understanding how things worked. His sister Jisoo found herself in an unexpected position. She was a translator, but now governments wanted her to translate something new. The Vraxian ships that had been captured contained databases full of alien information, written in languages nobody on Earth understood. Jisoo worked with linguists and computer scientists to crack the alien languages. She helped humanity understand what the Vraxians had been saying, planning, and recording. What they found in those databases was disturbing. The Vraxians had invaded 23 other worlds before Earth. All those invasions had succeeded. The alien species had surrendered quickly, usually within days. Some had tried to fight back but were crushed by superior Vraxian military force. Earth was the first planet to successfully resist a Vraxian invasion. The first planet to not only survive but win. This information spread through military channels and government offices around the world. Humanity realized they had done something unprecedented. They had beaten an enemy that nobody else had beaten. Dr. Yuna Shin and her cousin Soman Park won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their work. The award committee was not sure what else to call it. They had weaponized bacteria and used it to defend Earth. It was technically medicine, even if it was applied in an unusual way. The award ceremony was strange. Nobody had ever won a Nobel Prize for creating a biological weapon before. But nobody had ever saved humanity from alien invasion before either. Dr. Shin went back to work at the emergency room. She was still a doctor. People still needed help. The fact that she had helped save the world did not change her daily responsibilities. Though patients did ask for her autograph sometimes, which was weird. Soman continued her research on terrestrial bacteria and alien biology. The captured Vraxian technology gave her endless material to study. She published papers on biological incompatibility between Earth organisms and alien technology. Other scientists built on her work. Within a year, humanity had developed multiple types of biological weapons designed specifically to counter alien technology that used organic components. Colonel Donghyun Park was promoted to general. He was given command of the entire Space Defense Initiative Cyber Warfare Division. His first action was to recruit heavily from gaming communities, hacker forums, and anyone who had been awake at 3 in the morning during the invasion. The military needed people who thought differently, people who could fight with code instead of bullets. The captured Vraxian ships were taken apart and studied. Human scientists and engineers worked around the clock to understand alien technology. Some of it was beyond current human understanding, but some of it was surprisingly accessible. Within 6 months, Earth had reverse-engineered Vraxian communication systems. Within a year, humans had built their first spacecraft with faster-than-light capability. It was crude and barely functional, but it worked. Humanity was no longer trapped on one planet. The galaxy was opening up. 6 months after the invasion, Earth received a message. It came through radio telescopes pointed at deep space. The signal was clearly artificial and carried a translation protocol. When scientists decoded it, they found an invitation. The Galactic Assembly wanted to meet with humanity. The message was formal and polite, but underneath the diplomatic language was clear nervousness. The galaxy had been watching Earth for decades. They had seen humanity develop nuclear weapons, space travel, and global communication networks. But they had never made contact because humanity seemed too violent, too chaotic, too unpredictable. Then the Vraxian invasion happened. The galaxy watched as humans defeated an enemy that had conquered 23 other species. They watched humans use cyber warfare and biological weapons in ways nobody had considered before. And the galaxy realized that humans were not just violent and chaotic. They were dangerous in ways nobody had predicted. The first diplomatic meeting happened in Geneva, Switzerland. The aliens arrived in ships that landed gently in a secured area. They looked different from the Vraxians, more peaceful, less military. They introduced themselves as representatives of the Galactic Assembly, a coalition of 47 different species that worked together for mutual benefit. The lead ambassador was a tall creature with 6 limbs and blue skin. Through a translation device, it spoke in perfect English. "We have been monitoring Earth for many years. We owe you an apology for not making contact sooner. We thought your species was too primitive, too dangerous to join the galactic community." The UN Secretary General listened carefully. "And now? Now we realize we were wrong about what makes a species dangerous. The Vraxian collective has been expanding for centuries. They have conquered dozens of worlds. Most species surrender because Vraxian military technology is superior. A few species fight back and are destroyed. But you did something nobody else has done. You won." "We got lucky," the Secretary General said. The alien ambassador made a gesture that might have been a laugh. "No, you were prepared. Your species has been mentally preparing for alien invasion through your entertainment media for 100 years. When it actually happened, a significant portion of your population already knew what to do. You did not panic. You organized. You fought with weapons we had never seen used in warfare. Computer viruses, bacteria. You turned Vraxian technology against them. It was brilliant and terrifying. So what happens now? Now humanity joins the Galactic Assembly. You have earned it. But I must be honest. Many species are nervous about humans. You are unpredictable. You fight in ways we do not understand. Some species worry about what humanity will do with access to galactic technology." General Park, who was sitting in on the meeting, spoke up. "We just want to be left alone. We fought back because we were invaded. If nobody attacks us, we have no reason to attack anyone else." The ambassador looked at him carefully. "I hope that is true, because the galaxy is watching humanity now. Some with hope, some with fear. What you do next will determine how the galaxy sees your species." Over the next 3 years, humanity became part of the galactic community. It was not always smooth. There were cultural misunderstandings. There were political tensions. Some alien species did not trust humans, but humanity was learning. Earth shared its cyber warfare techniques with the Galactic Assembly. Several species that had been conquered by the Vraxians used human tactics to rebel and win their freedom. The Vraxian collective found itself facing uprisings on 6 different worlds, all using strategies learned from watching Earth's broadcasts. The Vraxians never tried to invade Earth again. They never publicly admitted why, but everyone knew. They had underestimated humanity and paid a terrible price. Their military doctrine was being rewritten to account for species that fought with unconventional methods. Human technology advanced rapidly, with access to alien knowledge. Faster-than-light travel became common. Human ships started exploring nearby star systems. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers. Human culture spread through the galaxy. Alien species started watching human movies and playing human video games. Some aliens found human entertainment confusing. Others became fans. Todd Mitchell continued working for the Space Defense Initiative. He designed security systems for human spacecraft and communication networks. He trained new recruits in cyber warfare. He still played video games in his free time, though now some of his gaming friends were actual aliens from other planets. They were terrible at team coordination, but enthusiastic. Taeyang finished his graduate degree and started teaching at CAST. His classes on xenotechnology were always full. Students wanted to learn from the man who had helped hack an alien invasion fleet. Taeyang was a patient teacher, though he often reminded students that he had just applied existing knowledge in a new situation. Anyone could have done it. They just needed to stay calm and think clearly. Jisoo became one of Earth's top xenolinguists. She could speak 6 alien languages fluently and understand 12 more. She worked as a translator for diplomatic missions and first contact situations. She helped humanity communicate with species that thought in completely different ways. It was fascinating work, though sometimes frustrating when dealing with species that communicated through smell or color changes. Dr. Yuna Shin retired from the hospital after 5 years. She had saved countless lives as a doctor, and she had helped save humanity during the invasion. She felt she had earned rest. She moved to a quiet house near the ocean and spent her time reading and watching the waves. Sometimes young scientists visited to ask her questions about her research. She always welcomed them and shared what she knew. Salman Park became the head of the Xenobiology Institute, a new research organization focused on studying alien life. She had unlimited funding and access to samples from dozens of different species. Her work on biological compatibility between Earth and alien organisms became the foundation for human medicine in space. Human doctors could now treat illnesses caused by exposure to alien environments. General Donghyun Park commanded Earth's Space Defense Forces. He oversaw the construction of the first orbital defense platforms and the training of personnel who would protect Earth from future threats. He never forgot the lesson of the Vraxian invasion. Humanity had won because civilians and military worked together. He made sure that cooperation continued. 3 years after the invasion, Todd received a message. It was from the Vraxian Collective. They wanted to open diplomatic relations with Earth. They were offering formal apologies and reparations for the invasion. They wanted to establish trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Todd forwarded the message to the UN and added a comment. They are scared of us. Use that. Humanity did use it. The negotiations resulted in very favorable terms for Earth. Technology transfers, trade rights, access to Vraxian star charts showing safe routes through space. The Vraxians agreed to everything because they did not want humanity as an enemy. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer an isolated species on a single planet. They were players in galactic politics. Some species welcomed them. Some species feared them. But everyone respected them because humanity had proven something important. They had shown that advanced technology was not enough to guarantee victory. Creativity mattered. Adaptability mattered. The willingness to use unconventional tactics mattered. And most importantly, humanity had shown that you should never ever invade a planet at 3 in the morning, because somewhere on that planet someone is awake. Someone is online. Someone has been preparing for exactly this scenario through years of science fiction and video games, and that someone might just hack your entire fleet while drinking coffee in their pajamas. The Vraxians had learned that lesson the hard way. The rest of the galaxy learned it by watching Earth's broadcasts. The message was clear. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced, but they might be the most dangerous when you wake them up in the middle of the night. 5 years after the invasion, Earth was thriving. Humanity had joined the galactic community and made it better. Alien students studied at human universities. Human scientists worked on alien planets. Cultural exchange programs flourished. The galaxy was richer for having humanity in it. And every year on the anniversary of the invasion, people around the world stayed up until 3 in the morning. They gathered online and in person. They remembered the 13-hour war. They remembered the people who had stayed awake and fought back. They called it the 3 a.m. protocol, a reminder that humanity was always watching, always ready, always prepared to defend themselves with whatever tools they had available, because that is what humans do. When faced with impossible odds, they do not give up. They adapt. They innovate. They find new ways to fight. And sometimes they win. The Vraxians invaded Earth at 3 in the morning, thinking it was the perfect time. Instead, they discovered it was the worst possible time. Because at 3 in the morning, humanity's night shift is wide awake, fully caffeinated and ready to turn an alien invasion into the ultimate multiplayer gaming session. And humanity is very, very good at gaming.